What's going on, golf addicts? Happy to have Matt NeSmith with us. Matt is a fellow Augusta guy, kind of played golf at University of South Carolina. We know him as a very good ball striker out on the PGA Tour, seeking his first victory. Came real close this year at the Valspar. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Matt, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Matt, we know you as a ball striking son of a gun. I mean, we track this stuff regularly. We look at it all the time. You're kind of known in the DFS betting streets as a guy who has made a lot of cuts this year. Got some top 25s. Pretty consistent player in terms of a ball striker. You don't have those really bad off weeks if you look at the strokes gain data anyway. But always interesting to hear from a player like kind of how you see yourself. But I also know like you use a stats guy and you look at this stuff yourself, which is really interesting. As we know guys that don't look at it at all. We talked to Harold Varner III a couple of weeks ago, who said he listens to us to understand the stats for the week, which is ridiculous. But how do you go about using that to help you break down an event each week, and talk to us about that stats guy relationship that you have?
Yeah, I use a lot of it to kind of figure out where I can improve, one, and two, where it all makes sense to kind of hit driver and try and take advantage of the golf course the way it best suits me. And so it's been a huge kind of improvement. I mean, I jumped up probably 65, 70 spots on the strokes gained off the tee, just because I knew when to hit driver and I didn't even have to hit the fairway for it to be able to be positive. And plus, it gave me better opportunities with shorter clubs in. So I was definitely a little bit too conservative my first couple of years on tour. So I'm learning on how to be a little bit more aggressive, but I didn't just want to go out there and be aggressive for no reason. I wanted to go out there and be able to kind of strategically pick where I wanted to hit driver and where it made sense and what flags it made sense to, and kind of go from there.
So that's something we talk about a good bit too. Like when we're breaking down a golf course, and evaluating, like, one of the first questions we ask ourselves on a golf course is like, all right, is this a golf course where you can play from the rough? That where maybe some of the longer hitters or everybody is gonna kind of say to themselves, whether it's in the rough, but if I'm in the rough, but I have a much shorter club, maybe it's a club or two, I'm just going to take that over being in the fairway. What are those things that you're looking for to determine that? I mean, obviously, I guess rough, whatever type of rough it is, or how thick it is, or is it going to fall to the bottom? Is it gonna not? Is there something about the green complexes as well that you guys kind of take into account to say, all right, let's send it on driver if maybe the green complexes have openings in the front or whatever that may be? I don't know. Like, how do you guys determine that?
Well, he's a guy I worked with, Hunter Stewart. He works with Maverick McNeely and Scott Stallings as well. And a lot of it from his perspective has been kind of crunching shot link data and looking at like, hey, I know it probably doesn't look like the best. I know it probably doesn't look right, but the right rough here on, like, I'll give the example of um, 8 at Napa, or number, I think it's 3 at Detroit. If you hit it in that right rough or in the fairway, if it's basically just right of the left rough line, um, guys, it's some of the most friendly rough on tour.
Hmm.
So it doesn't exactly matter whether you get a good lie or based on the rough height or anything on how you play it. It's basically looking at data from however long the tournament's been there and saying, all right, well, this rough right here to this pin is really friendly. So it's kind of saying, all right, well, we're just going to try and hit the fairway. And if we miss it, we're going to miss it a little bit right. And if that's what happens and we hit it in that right rough, it plays really friendly. And most of the time it makes sense. Like, it'll be a back flag with a little bit of a plateau. And it's actually like a tougher shot from the fairway for the most part. I mean, it's tough to control your spin, and it's tough to, like, especially if it's soft. I mean, you get a back flag and you hit it 85 yards. I mean, we're going to put 11,000, 10,000 spin on that. And there's not any room to throw it past the hole, So if you do hit it actually in the right rough, you can throw something kind of below the slope and have it run up and maybe even control your spin a little bit more. So there are tons of holes kind of like that throughout the tour schedule that we're able to kind of pick and choose where we do things too.
That's very interesting that you're breaking it down that in detail. We've not talked to somebody that does that just yet. And the proof has worked for you this year. You talked about how I guess last year in driving you were like 150th or 60th or something, and now you're like you were 70th in strokes gained off the tee. So what you guys were looking at. We pulled some numbers and just apparently on what we looked at, you were like top 25 or number 24, I think it was, in strokes gained approach overall. So the ball striking is definitely there. You're one of the best iron players in the world, if you think about it that way. And so you've improved drastically with the driver, which obviously helped. So it seems like the next thing that I'm sure you're working on is like, how do we get the putter, going? And I think you mentioned you felt like you putted better than maybe the numbers show. Talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I did. So Hunter I'll call Hunter and be like, hey, I switched putting coaches probably in the early part of this year, and I was like, I want to see what the difference is based on what was I more consistent? Was I gaining strokes at all? And where did we do anything better? Did we do anything better basically? Because I moved up probably 35 spots strokes gained putting throughout the year, but my worst rounds were way better, and I just kind of chipped away at it. And we talk about it all the time. Those can be a little bit misleading because
Yeah.
strokes gained putting is, for a guy like me, is going to be extremely difficult. Like I just, like, zero to me would be like being top 15 in the world. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
just because I hit so many greens, like I get, like if I miss a 20 footer, it's minus 0.3 or minus 0.03 or something like that. And so if I have 8 of those around and I don't really make anything, like those add up really, really quickly. And so it's hard for me to be a guy like Denny McCarthy who's going to gain a stroke around.
Yeah.
And Denny's one of the best putters in the world, probably the best putter in the world, especially the best one I've ever been around. And it's just hard for me to compete with that, just with how many greens I hit, how many opportunities I have. But there's a goal for me. Like if I'm positive for the year, I bet you I either won once or maybe twice, or I bet you I played awesome. So the goal for me is just to kind of continually steadily improve and have my bad putting days not be minus 2.5, which they have been in the past. And we're just kind of working at it that way. And I have been a heck of a lot better. And there was a few places where I struggled a little bit, like Players was impossible. I mean, I got that wave where
You're on the wave. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You also
putting,
lost like 4 strokes on approach, which is very wild for you. So it's
yeah,
clearly the wave.
it was extremely, extremely tough. So, but yeah, I think I did a really good job. I actually gained strokes over the course of from about mid fall last year throughout the end of the season with the putter. I mean, it was like 0.01, but we'll count that in the positive, and that's the goal. The goal is to just be consistent and try and continue to get better. So I've been trending that way, and I think it's going to continue for the next year.
Well, I want to ask you about. I don't want to stand too long here into the data nerd stuff, but I do want to ask you about Valspar. I think I had you on my betting card that week. I know I had you on there a lot this year, and it was you felt the heat, right? Like you were there late on Sunday, doing your thing, in contention late. And I always kind of like to look at a guy who is yet to win on the PGA Tour and like see them in that late Sunday hunt first, and then like once they feel that, if they happen to miss out on the opportunity, I feel like they learn a lot, right? And you guys take a lot away from that. And so next time where I feel like the form is right and things are peaking and all the things look good and I want to take a stab at you, I feel a lot better about it after a guy's kind of been through the fire. So like talk about that day at Valspar and maybe what you may have learned that you'll carry forward, this season as you find yourself in contention again, I'm sure multiple times.
Yeah. Valspar was really cool. I mean, I hadn't been really, really in contention, probably hardly at all in my first 2 years. Most of the times if I played well, I kind of backdoor to top 20 or kind of backdoor to top 10. Never really felt the heat on Sunday. I just played great on Sunday and was able to kind of sneak in there. But Valspar, I mean, I was in it from starting the back nine on Friday all the way through the last putt on Sunday. So it was really cool. I mean, it feels the same. Like, I mean, to me, the Augusta Area Junior Golf Association, the biggest tournament we had was the Rob Perry when I was 10, 11 years old. Like that felt the same to me as Valspar. I mean, it's a completely different level, but all of that pressure still feels the same. I mean, you still want it. You still want to play well. you still feel nervous, regardless if you're playing for a little trophy or we're playing for millions of dollars. So it was really cool to be in it. And it's nice to know that I can kind of stick in there and get it.
By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but Rob Perry is the brother of my co-host Pat Perry, who's on
Really?
the
I didn't
line.
know that.
Yeah, they grew up at Augusta Country Club.
Yeah.
Rob's Pat's brother, great guy. We love Pat. We love memorializing Rob as well, and that's a great tournament. Cool. So talk to me. One last question here about kind of golf course stuff. Is you look ahead to this year's PGA Tour schedule, like what are those courses that, you know, whether you play well on them in the past or not, like what are the courses that you look at and kind of circle and say, like, that's a course that I really feel, you know, sets up the best for me in order to kind of close the door and get that first win notched on your belt there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've already gone through kind of schedule stuff with Hunter. I mean, there's obviously places like it's very interesting because there's a place like Arnold Palmer, like Bay Hill should be right up my alley. And I haven't made a cut there in the first 2 years.
Yep.
It should be right up my alley. And then there are kind of places. I mean, there's a lot of middle of the road. My game fits a lot of places.
Yep.
But Vegas is, and especially in the fall, Vegas Shriners is all I could ever ask for in a golf course. So I'm very excited. I've played well there in my first few years, and it makes sense. I mean, Shriners isn't a place where you can shove driver everywhere, so everybody's got to play from where I play from, and so it doesn't freak me out off the tee. I can lay up a lot and kind of hit a lot of shorter irons and 8 irons and 7 irons and 9 irons and stuff, which is right in my kind of breadbasket. But no one else can really. There's no really other way to push it there. Like other golf courses, you can lay back because you want to, or you can push it because there's room. At Shriners, you don't really have the option to push it. And so everyone has to play from where I play from. So we all play from the same spots. And I feel pretty confident in my game when golf courses like that set up.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So you and I, there's a fun fact about you and I, right? I obviously grew up around the Augusta area, but before you were working with Gary Crescent, I was probably working with Gary Crescent. And Gary managed to turn me from a 10 handicap to a 12 handicap in about 3 months. So I'm curious to know about how you kind of, you know, I mean, did you get hooked up with Gary through the Augusta connections? I'm sure you did. But I mean, he's kind of a new, he's kind of a newer coach on the PGA Tour. It's just within the last few years, he's kind of started assembling guys like you and Norlander and others. So another Augusta guy and friend of ours. So like talk about Gary, kind of how that whole thing's gone down, how you're working with him, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I went to school with an Augusta guy named Dyke Sarbin.
Yep.
Who played at Carolina with me, and he's been working with Gary for a long time. And another guy, Grayson Sig, who's I've grown up with from being around here. And then obviously I'm a little bit younger than Henrik, but I'd seen Henrik play a good bit. And I was just I wasn't hitting it very well. I was trying to figure some stuff out. And I went to the North Carolina, South Carolina game, maybe in 2018. And I saw Dykes up there, and we obviously talking about golf and whatever. And I was asking him about Gary because Dykes, man, when we were playing in college, was hit it so good. I mean, absolutely striped it. And so I was like, all right, well, he's in Augusta. I can kind of go in there and see what he would say. And I was right before Q school, and I had nothing to lose, and went over there and made it through first stage, then made it through second. And then I can't remember if I made it through finals that year or not, but there was just some immediate progression the second I started kind of going over there. So I was just like, all right, well, we'll see where this thing goes the next few months. And I got my Corn Ferry card. I finished 15th, or I finished 8th in my first event, and then we were off and running. And so he's really been a great tool for me to use. And the cool part about it is all his guys hit it a little bit different. I mean, Sig's a drawer, Henrik's a cutter. I'm kind of in the middle. There is no, we're going to try and do this so we can hit this kind of ball flight. It's kind of, all right, well, let's take what you do really naturally and what you see naturally and try to make it as good as we can.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like when you think about Sig, Norlander, I mean, those are 3 really, really, really good iron players, statistically. And so, like, is it safe to say, I mean, do you feel like your iron play has always been the strongest aspect of your game, and it kind of got a little bit better with Gary, or did it really take like a significant leap?
Yeah, iron play was always kind of my bread and butter. It always has been, but I definitely got more consistent. I got more consistent to be able to go day in and day out, hit the shots that I wanted to hit, and play the golf course like I wanted to play it. So for me, I've always been able to hit it well, but there were all these kind of lapses. There'd be like 12 holes or 2 days or stuff like that, where on the PGA Tour, you have
Yeah.
to be incredibly consistent with how you hit it. I mean, the best in the world are like that. I mean, you watch Rory hit a driver, there are very few days that he doesn't hit it 335 yards down the middle of the fairway, you know? So I think there are guys that are very, very good at doing what they do really well, like John Rahm. John Rahm's a guy who, I mean, he can cut it 25 yards with a driver and fly at 310 every day he wakes up. I mean, that's extremely beneficial for him, you
That's
know?
pretty
And
cool.
yeah, I would love to do that. But I think that's what the best do well. They're super consistent. They're always kind of in the same kind of pattern with their golf swing, their ball flight. And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I hit it really straight. It's a little bit of a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's hard to kind of be, if you're not swinging very good, it's hard to know where the ball's going to go. But when I'm swinging good, I'm pretty dialed. So it's just trying to make everything more consistent, just trying to continue to wake up day in and day out and hit the same ball flight.
Have you done any of this distance chasing stuff? I mean, it's not like you're short, but
Um,
you're talking about, you just mentioned a couple of long drivers of the golf ball. Have
yeah.
you done any of that?
Um, well, the cool part is another thing that I found with Gary when I went to see Gary in 2018, I was swinging at 112 and had 167 mile an hour ball speed. And now on tour, my average over the last few years, this year was definitely the longest. My average is like 115 and 173 and a half. So I've picked up
Yep.
6 miles an hour, 6.5 miles an hour with just getting my golf swing in a little better spot where I could actually make a little bit of a bigger swing and it feels normal to me. Like it feels normal for me to make a little bit bigger swing. I didn't exactly realize um, how scared or nervous I was about the driver over the last probably 8 years or so. So I just wouldn't swing at it. I didn't even realize it. You know, I didn't even
Yeah.
realize that I would just kind of take it short and try to hit it in the fairway and giving up all kind of. I'm a big guy. I mean, I could swinging it hard and hitting it far is a huge advantage. And so
Yeah.
being able to pick up some distance just by not really even doing anything that I wouldn't normally do, has been really cool.
That's good. Well, clearly, clearly Gary had to, fine tune his craft through guys like me to get to you, and God bless the broken road, that led Gary to you, man. Okay, so who's your caddy? Who's and like how'd you hook up with your caddy? Any good stories? We love caddies on the Tour Junkies show.
Mick Brennan is my caddy, and he used to caddy for Stephen Bowditch for about
Oh,
5 years. So
stop! Baldo's our
he,
boy.
yeah, so he's got some great Baldos stories. He's also he's very private. He likes to keep everything in house, which is funny. So, but I met him through actually my agent. My agent was kind of looking around, trying to. I just had a buddy caddying for me on the Corn Ferry, and was like, all right, maybe we'll try and find something. And he was off, and him and Baldo had kind of stopped working together, and he was kind of looking for a new bag. And I said we'd try and give it a shot at Springfield, Illinois, probably 3/4 of the way through my Corn Ferry year, and we won about a month and a half
Yeah.
later, and we've been on the PGA Tour ever since. So he's a great dude. He's been caddying for me ever since. So this is just over 3 years now. I've really enjoyed him.
I think was he with Baldo in 2016, the Players?
Probably that would make sense. They won Valero together. They won Byron together. I think 16 may have been the last year.
So I'm gonna do this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'm gonna move my camera up above that TV screen. See that caddy bib
Yep.
there?
Yep.
That's Baldo's, or that's your boy Mick's caddy bib.
That's Mick's caddy bib. There you go.
Well, Baldo was trunk slamming early in 2016 at the Players, and they got called off the golf course because of rain and weather. 2 holes left to play in the round.
He said, "See you later."
In round 2, yeah. So I'm having beers with Baldo that night. I'm like, where's Mick at or whatever, and he's like, oh, Mick, he went home to Orlando or something, or wherever he was living. He's like, he's got a daughter or something he had to make, or I can't remember what it was. I was like, well, who's going to caddy for you tomorrow? You got 2 holes left to play. He's like, I don't know. I'll just get Coach, Hamilton, Scott Hamilton,
Hamilton,
whatever,
yeah.
to come loop for me. I was like, dude, let me do it. He's like, you want to caddy 2 holes? I was like, yeah, I do. I want to caddy. So I caddied number 8, number 9. He had started on the back for round 2, but I got caddy number 8 and 9 to come in off the bench. And hey, I
Hey,
gotta say this, tell your boy Mick, in those 2 holes, Baldo had 2 putts.
boom,
Pretty good.
boom. You read them greens, baby. Hey, man,
Now
that's a resume bumper right there.
I know. Now, when we got on number 8, he put it in the left bunker, and I started to rake it, and Baldo literally took the rake out of my hand, which was embarrassing. I was a caddy at Augusta National. I thought like I knew how to rake a bunker. Baldo was like, no, give it to me. Then I dropped, and then on number 9, walking down the fairway, Baldo's towel fell off the bag, and I had to turn around again.
Hey,
It was a rough 2 holes.
hey, it happens. My one of my best friends caddied for me at the U.S. Open in 2015, and when we went off the practice round on number 10, he went off the practice round. He forgot the towel on the tee, and he forgot the pin sheet for the day, and had to run back to the tee with like Hideki and like Lee Westwood on the tee, and he was like, "I am so stupid."
Yikes.
So I give him some hell every time I see him about it. Like, hey man, don't forget that towel.
Oh my God. You know what you need to do? Subscribe to the Nut Hut. Why have you not done that yet? It's $10 a month. Let me tell you something. We have had hundreds, actually now over 1,000 of members join the Nut Hut. Get in there now. It's $10 a month. Do it right now. All right, back to the episode. It was really embarrassing. Okay, so what about, so you played college golf at USC.
Mhm.
Any funny, memorable college golf stories, travel
Oh
stories,
man.
experiences that you're willing to share? I'm sure there's some you probably can't, but I've asked this question to a couple guys before. Sometimes we don't get much, but we have uncovered at least one very memorable story out of Brendan Todd about Brian Harmon. So I always like to ask the question in the event we get another one
Just
of
to
those.
see. Yeah. One of my best friends was a kid named Will Murphy, who was a absolute clown. He caddied for me for a little bit on the Corn Ferry. He actually caddied for Lee McCoy for a little while. He caddied for Trevor Cohn for a little bit. But he was just, bless his heart, man. He's just not all there sometimes. I mean, he would go to sleep. He would go to sleep, and he always needed complete darkness, and he couldn't find the remote for the TV, so he put a bed sheet on top of it to take it to him. Like, dude, you could just unplug it. Like there's a plug that goes into the wall. He tried to, man, when we were coming back from Houston, where we were playing Redstone, and he had shot like 68 and was playing pretty good in a college event. And our coach told him that he was very en fuego. He's en fuego, and he looked, and I was in the van with him, and he looked up at Billy back, and he was like, where is en fuego? I thought we were in Texas. And you're just like, oh my God. But there's so many stories. I mean, he was asking me about scissors to try and cut some shorts a little bit shorter, and all sorts of stuff. You're just like, dude, where does this come into how do you think of all this stuff? There's so many easier ways to do it.
Is that the guy that plays with George and Wesley Bryan in their videos?
Yes.
That's him.
Yes.
I thought that's who you're talking about.
He's done a few of them. And then you got Will Miles, that's Will Miles.
Oh, Will Miles. That's what I'm thinking of.
So he's a little bit younger. But Murph is from Columbia. He's the same age. He played with George and Wesley for a year on the team. So, but Miles was on the team with me as well, and he's come out of his shell a little bit. It's good to see.
Love it. All right. We also asked this question to every tour player, just to see if we can uncover another good one. The most electric player on the PGA Tour, we already know, is Siwoo Kim. So the question is, do you have any experiences, any stories, any interaction with the legend of Siwoo Kim?
That guy is probably the funniest guy on tour. Doesn't even try to be either. He's the funniest guy on tour. I played with, I've got a couple Siwoo Kim stories just from being around him. I almost knocked over his coffee in the physio lounge earlier this year, and it was probably like 11:30. It was actually a year ago. It was at John Deere, I almost knocked over. It was probably 11:30 in the morning. I look at him and go, "Oh, Siwoo, I'm sorry." And he looks at me and goes, "No coffee, no pro am." It's like 11:30 in the morning. That was pretty good. He walked on the tee at Valero a few years ago and looked at his caddy because it was like supposed to rain and like not be the best weather. And he walked up on the tee and he looked at his caddy and goes, "I do not care today. Do not care." I was just like, and then I
Doesn't
played
care
with Troy
any.
Merritt. Yeah, doesn't care at all. I played with Troy Merritt earlier this year. And he kept going. "I'm Barbasol champ, bro." And I was like, what are you and your caddy talking about? His caddy used to caddy for Siwoo. And he said Siwoo hit it in this left rough. I don't remember where. Maybe Memorial. Hit it in this left rough on this par 5. And it was sitting down. And he was like, "Well, what are you going to hit? We need to lay up and probably hit like a 9-iron." He said Siwoo pulled out driver to hit it out of the rough. And he was like, "Siwoo, what are you doing?" He said, Siwoo looked at him and goes, "I players champ, bro."
Oh my god! Did he hit it?
He's a trip. I guess. I don't know. I never heard the end of the story. I just
Oh my
remember
god, that's
they were just all
amazing.
going, "I players champ, bro."
We're about to put that on a t-shirt. I got to tell you right now.
I mean, it was awesome. I mean, I played with Mackenzie Hughes earlier this year at DC, and Mackenzie, it was like 40 degrees and raining, and Mackenzie somehow birdied the first 2 holes. And walking to the third tee, Siwoo goes, "Hey Mac, how's it feel? Go eagle, eagle first 2 holes."
Oh my god, I love him.
I
Oh,
mean, he later on that day, he'd played pretty good. He was like 1 under, and it's absolutely soaking wet on every tee box, soaking wet. And he hit this tee ball on 18 after being like maybe 2 under. He'd moved up like 35 spots, and he just went to the ground holding his leg in full rain suit, like he's just holding. I'm like, oh my god, like he just tore his ACL or did something happen. And after like he was on the ground for like 30 seconds, he looks up at me because I'm about to tee up my ball, and he goes, "Cramp." Like, what are you doing, man?
oh, dude,
He's got some good ones. He's a funny man, dude. He's very funny.
we have some good ones too from that we've heard
I'm
from
sure.
about him. We got a chance to talk to him a couple times this year. He's our white whale to get on the podcast. So he said he would do it, but it's one thing for him to say that, another thing for us to actually get him on here. God, that's funny. All right. I got to ask you, about what's going on in the world of golf, right? We got this live stuff happening. And we actually just interviewed Grayson Sigg a week or so ago, and I was talking to him about it. I think it was the day after they had the meeting, the Tiger, in the Aeropostale shirt driving the Nissan into that meeting. And
can't believe Ricky let him drive. Can't believe Ricky let him drive.
Oh, I can't believe anyone lets him out of the house wearing what he wears off the golf course. If it weren't for Nike, Tiger would. He's struggling. So it was like the day after, and Grayson was like, "Listen, man, like I don't quite see yet," and obviously a lot of details have to be flushed out of that plan. But Grayson's thing was like, for me, I'm a guy in this range where it's like, how do I get into this elevated event field, right? And maybe it's 60 guys, but we've heard that number is just kind of arbitrary. Maybe it's 60 guys, maybe it's 80 guys, and they do these elevated events. And so Grayson was like, it is a concern of mine as to what the path is for me to get there, and how the tour is going to facilitate up and coming really good players to find their way in there. I mean, guys like, when I was talking about, we talked about Cameron Young, like when Cameron Young came out of the Korn Ferry Tour last year, I mean,
nobody know who he was.
He wasn't even one of the top Korn Ferry Tour guys that people were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then he elevates so quickly. And so how does that work? So for me, I look at a guy like you, and I feel like you and Sig are in that same kind of ballpark, right? Where you got a lot of promise, you're doing a lot of things really well, and you're really counting on, like you said, if you could just be 0.0 in putting, you're going to have a win or two on tour. You're going to have some top 10s in there. You're going to be in contention more. So you're this close. Like, what are your concerns with some of this new stuff that's been rolled out or talked about in terms of what the tour is trying to do?
Well, as bluntly as a buddy of mine, Victor Hovland, told me in Riviera this year, just play better. I mean, I was telling Victor, I was like, man, we got kind of screwed with this. Like it was the wind delay at Riv a couple years ago, and I was like, man, this kind of sucks and blah blah. And he looked at me and just goes, "Well, just play better." I was like, okay, man. Well, bluntly, that is true. I mean, the reason Cameron Young is the reason where he is now is because he's played good golf. I mean, if like we're in a sport where the cool part is we can help ourselves out. I mean, at some point in time, like we just have to play good golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you want to be included in the small field kind of big purse events, but you got to earn your way in there. They don't just give it to you. I mean, it's something that we've done at every level. You had to earn your way through Q school. You had to earn your way to get your PGA Tour card. You had to earn your way to keep your PGA Tour card. Like at some point in time, you just got to play good golf. If playing good golf takes care of a lot of things. So
Yeah.
We can kind of gripe and moan about all this not being included, but we can include ourselves in that if we just play good.
Yeah. Have you know, Max Homa talked about on the No Land Up podcast a couple of weeks ago how everybody's gotten an offer. Have you gotten an offer, seen an offer from LIV?
No, I mean, it's more so, it's not that LIV they came out obviously and tried to get some like your Tigers and your Rorys and stuff like that. But after that, it was just guys who wanted to see what they had. If you had any interest in going, you could set it up however you wanted to. You know, that's kind of how it goes. But I haven't had any interest to go over there, so no.
Who's been the biggest surprise name for you that's gone over to LIV?
I don't know, man. I don't really think there's really any surprises that have gone over there just because I mean, guys just want to make money, and that's what we're here to do. And obviously we want to play for millions of dollars and play for trophies and stuff like that. But it's kind of like what Harold said. I mean, you get that for a guy from Gastonia. I mean, that's life-changing money. That changes the trajectory of his family and changes the trajectory of things he can do in his community. I mean, I think I'm a little bit too close to it where I just understand it. I understand why everybody's gone. Maybe the most surprising person that I had heard about going was probably Hudson Swafford when he left. When that came out, when that first field came out and he was in it, I was like, whoa. But everybody else, I understand. I mean, I get it. And there's been rumors flying around for months and months and months. I mean, Hudson was definitely the one that I had never heard of, even thinking about going, that ended up going.
Do you, last kind of question, I think, on this, like, do you feel like, you know, it's been put out there in the media by a couple players, maybe, and some players are more vocal than others, but you know, players talking about how they all feel like with the guys that are in this lawsuit that they feel like it's an attack on all of you guys, all the PGA Tour players. Do you feel that way? Do you feel it? Do you take it kind of personal?
Yeah, I mean, I was yeah, it's absolutely personal because they can say what they want to about not understanding what was going to happen whenever they got suspended and weren't going to be able to come over back and play. But I mean, you made the decision to go. I have no hard feelings for you going over there. Like I'm happy for you. Awesome. Go over there. I would still have be friends and stuff like that. But don't try and play both sides. You know, like don't try to have your cake and eat it too. And that's the one thing you don't like. Hey, you made the decision to go. Be okay with that decision. Don't come over here and trying to come back and play both. I mean, the whole thing, they want to play less golf. That's not, they want to play 15 on the tour and 14 over there. That's 29 weeks. Like that's not less golf.
Yeah.
It's more golf than any of them have ever played in their life. So, I mean, it's just be okay with the decision you made and go with the consequences. And you see guys kind of realizing that as they're doing. There are guys that pulled out of that lawsuit because they're like, you know what, like, I made my decision to come over here. I'm just going to be over here. So I think you'll kind of see a little bit more of that.
All right, let's get on to some fun stuff. We'll wrap this up, Matt. You got a completely free day, absolutely free day to do whatever you want to do. What does that day look like for you?
I'm going to play some golf.
You are? Okay. So see, there's a lot of guys that are like, I'm not touching a golf club. You're a golf addict.
Yeah, man, I'm a golf addict. I love it. And well, as you know, there's not a whole lot to do in Aiken.
So you ride horses, which I think wife does.
Yeah, my wife does. So we'd probably go and I'd play some golf, drink a few beers with the boys, go to the farm and hang out a little bit, maybe fish a little bit, and maybe cook some food and have some people over. Just kind of relax.
Yep. All right. You're a South Carolina fan. Okay. We're Georgia Bulldog guys all the way.
I grew up a Georgia fan.
You did? What happened?
I grew up a Georgia.
You got recruited to South Carolina?
I wanted to go play for Bill McDonald, and when I got there, they had Connor Shaw and Marcus Lattimore and Alshon Jeffrey, and we were actually pretty good. So they
Good.
lured me in, and then they're like, and then 2 years later, they're like, "See, this is what it's like to be a Carolina fan. We win like 6 games a year."
Well, I guess this kind of answers my next question, because I was going to say, how old were you when you were allowed to do your first "Go Cox" chant? But
Oh man,
I
it
guess
was
you're pretty
it was
old.
definitely in college. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was my freshman year of college, or maybe like on a recruiting visit my like senior year or something like that. But I've absolutely fallen in love with the university and the football team. And like Shane Beamer's a good friend of mine, and I play golf with Justin Stepp. I played golf with Justin Stepp and Connor Shaw last week, and I think I love those guys, man. It's definitely a little bit different. I mean, Muschamp didn't play golf or do anything of that nature, so
Yeah,
being able to have a little bit of an inside look into the program and things like that's been really cool. And those guys are awesome.
that's cool. All right, so grew up around the Augusta area. What's your most memorable Masters experience? I know you've been a lot. You went a lot as a kid.
Ooh.
Most
Uh,
memorable experience going to Augusta?
uh, man, I remember, I can't remember if it was the exact same year, but I remember going on Sunday when Tiger eagled six. I was sitting in the stands when he eagled six and gave that huge fist pump, even though he was in like 40th and now he moved up to like third, but the other guys were going off like 4 hours later. That was really cool to kind of see him go. I watched Phil win on 18. That was really cool. I watched Schwartzel win on 18 and watched kind of that whole like Jason Day was kind of firing through the field, and I watched him make like a 35 footer on 17. That was really cool. Just the whole atmosphere of being around there is crazy. I remember when Oosthuizen, I was there when Oosthuizen made the double eagle on two. Like just a lot of really, really cool memories.
Yeah, those are good ones. Do you play any fantasy football, or do you enjoy?
Oh yeah,
You do.
oh
You're a
yeah,
fantasy football guy.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I put a whole lot of effort into the picks, but
Yeah.
I follow along. I kind of follow along. I'm the worst at trying to like trade and stuff like that. I'm a stats guy, so like I look at it, I'm like, is this really worth it? And then I'll never
Right.
make a decision the entire time.
Right. But you play in like a buddies league or something? How many leagues you in?
I do, I do. I play. So I play in a league with. I'm trying to think with a couple of buddies from college. And then we do a pick 'em. We do a pick 'em, a 10 game or a 10 games a week pick 'em on college football.
So are you like you're like Tom Hoagie on a Saturday, you're walking down the fairway checking your phone?
See, hey, Siwoo's a big gambler as well.
Is he?
Siwoo check,
I didn't
yeah,
even know
Siwoo.
that.
So Siwoo loves to gamble on baseball and soccer. And like when we were playing at Valero, he's just sitting in there looking at his phone. He had it in his yardage book, and he looked at his cat. He goes, "Dodgers plus 225."
Oh, the legend is growing. God dang it.
Oh, he's
Legend is
great, man.
growing. This is great. That's funny. Do you do any so when you go to Vegas, are you in the casinos at all? Do you like to do any of that?
I could sit at a blackjack table for an unhealthy amount of time.
You're just like Tom Hoagie. You're freaking. You ever play with Tom Hoagie? Like you guys
Oh
could.
yeah,
We had him on the
oh
show.
yeah,
We did an over under parlay. We built an over under parlay card for SEC win totals and Big 12 win totals.
yeah. He loves it. That man can send it you put him in a little what do they call it? The not the
Craps
what's
tables.
this? No, the little they've got all the people who can gamble at sports book,
Yeah,
or they got all the TVs. Everybody
yeah,
can just
sportsbook.
grind out like a game the whole time. I'm not quite like that, but Hoagie can send it over there
Well, I think blackjack's his he goes to the blackjack table when he wants a little break from craps. But you're blackjack all day.
all day, all day long. I could sit there forever. I don't know why, but I could sit there all day long. And I always go with Grayson, and Grayson wins all the money in the world, and I come out like barely break even every time. Sig's the luckiest person
You
in a
card counting?
casino of all time. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing, but I
What
need some of it.
I mean, obviously you guys aren't allowed to play you can't bet on golf, you can't play DraftKings golf, but you wish you could. You wish you could be like, man, it'd be fun to do like a lineup, a DraftKings.
No. I'm kind of the guy. Like I am a golf junkie, but I'm not gonna watch any golf. Like if I haven't seen a shot since I missed the cut of Memphis.
You don't
I haven't
watch it
watched
at all.
it. Not at all. I mean, now you still kind of keep up with it. You see that like Rory won, or I guess Cantlay won in the BMW, but like I didn't like. I come into Palmetto and they'd be like, "Well, so did you see the last 3 holes last night?" I'm like, no, like I'm just hanging out, man.
All right, guilty pleasure, music, band, or artist. Guilty pleasure. So somebody that you like listening to, but you're a little embarrassed to say you like listening to.
Probably Ed Sheeran or Michelle Branch.
Michelle Branch.
Love Michelle Branch.
Other than that one song, does she have any other?
Well, here's the thing. So Richie Warinsky, who lives here, put on Pandora when we were riding in the car the other day of Michelle Branch radio, and you don't realize how many. You don't really realize how
Interview's
many good
over.
ones she did.
What? What?
Hey, you said guilty pleasure. You didn't say what do I listen to every day.
You won. You won that question. Richie Warinsky having a Michelle Branch playlist on is wild.
Hey, he said he loves to cut grass to it, so it's awesome.
Are you a podcast guy? Do you listen to any podcasts?
I listen to South Carolina podcasts. That's about it.
All right. What about YouTube? You YouTube channel guy? YouTube guy?
Not really. Another guilty pleasure. I will watch full games of South Carolina games from back because I will. I will watch old game. Well, because one, there's college. Like I remember, I'm not a guy who's like going to remember exactly what happened. Like I don't remember.
I'm like that. I remember.
So if you sit there and you tell me like I remember the Georgia game, but when I was there, but I don't remember the Florida game that we won. So I'm like, all right, well, this is like watching it live. I'll just go in there and a lot of people have like condensed them to like 30 minutes, and you can just watch them like, oh, okay, that's how we won. Because I have friends that you'll go and talk to them and they'll be like, oh, we had that 4th down and 3 like 12 years ago. You don't remember I'm like, no, I don't remember anything.
I'm like that, dude. I'm terrible. I have a bad golf memory too. Like I played the same course. I played the course in Puerto Rico. Have you played that course in Puerto Rico? The Grand Resort?
Yeah, the one. Yeah, is that the place where they do the Puerto Rico Open?
Yeah, I just got back.
Yeah, I played it.
I played the course twice. I
probably can't remember any holes.
I remember maybe the first hole and the last hole. I can't remember anything else.
I'm not like that. I could remember. I used to get mad at my buddies.
Remember everything.
I remember my buddy. I'm like, so what'd you do on like 10? And he was playing like a pro assistant something. He was like, I don't even know what hole 10 is. I'm like, well, can you like walk it back for me? Like you can't. How can you not remember it? You did it today.
That's exactly how I am. All right, now Sig. Speaking of Sig, we talked about this with him. Like he's not really active on social media, but he's a stalker. He's on there a lot, and you're not very active either. But are you a stalker? Or you just kind of stay off of it?
I actually don't have it. I don't have my wife runs it for the most part, or my agent. I don't even look. I don't even have it on my phone. I'm like. I'm not confident enough to do what Sepp does. Sepp Straka has a flip phone. I'm not confident enough for that yet.
Sepp has a flip phone? I was just with Sepp.
Yeah, well, he goes back and forth. He's like, if I feel like I'm getting too big on my phone, I'll go to my flip phone.
Hey, I respect that.
I do too.
But basically, now you have confessed to me that you've been catfishing me because I thought I was DMing you on Instagram, but apparently it was your wife or your agent.
Well, sometimes I go back on there. Sometimes I haven't been on there in about a month. So it's hit. Yeah. Well, it also, if like I don't reply, I also feel bad because like if I get back on it, there will be messages from like a month and a half ago that I've never replied to from people that like I like or something like that. And I'll be like, damn, I feel bad for not replying. They just think I don't like. I don't know.
That's okay. We'd rather you just do you. But staying off of social media is great. So when you're doing an interview on the tour or podcast, whatever, what's the one question that you hate getting asked the most that you feel like you get asked? Like, what do you just like, as soon as it starts coming out of their mouth, and it could be a question I've already asked you. That's fine. You just start thinking like, oh man, I hate this question. I wish it would.
I don't know. Lately, it's just always been so like, what do you think of LIV? You know what I mean? I've gotten that. Yeah. You get that. I've gotten that question so many times from playing in like pro-ams and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I think half the part's been the media. The media is just giving them so much power. Because I've been asking people like, have you watched any of a LIV tournament? They're like, no. I'm like, so what do we care about? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like no one. Like they've made a big splash in like the they've taken some players, but nobody's really watching their their product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Nobody, the live stuff is just, it's so out in front of your face that you just can't stop. If you're any kind of golf fan or you follow golf at a close level, you just can't avoid it. So it's constantly top of mind.
yeah, for sure.
All right, 2 more questions and we're done. What would you shoot on a good day? Let's say it's a pretty good day. Like it's a Matt NeSmith's playing good right now. I want local courses. Now you're at Palmetto, which I didn't know you were going to be there until we got on here. I love Palmetto, so that's a local course. We'll throw that one in there. But I'm curious, like I've talked to Luke List and Norlander. I play out at Champions Retreat, and I've seen those guys playing out there from the tips, and asked them this question. But like, what do you shoot on a really good day from some of these local courses, like Palmetto, Augusta Country Club, Champions Retreat, Sage Valley? I know you played the Junior Invitational at Sage. Good day, Matt. What are we shooting?
It just kind of depends. Like I mean, an average, the way I talk about with Brownie and kids, on an average day here, if we play pretty average, we're going to shoot about 500 to 600. That's just the way. I mean, you get comfortable, the whole thing. A good day, you probably shoot 61, 62, somewhere in there. If you play really good.
And do you feel like that's different from like Palmetto to Champions? 'Cause I feel like those courses are a little different.
Yeah, a little bit. Like Champions, if you shoot like 64, you probably played pretty good. Like 64 would be probably playing pretty good. 64, 63, somewhere in that.
How much better do you think that gets? It's probably all comes down to putting, but how much better do you think that gets if you play from like the member tees?
Well, I actually did this the other day. Like we played a pro-am the other day from like 6,200 yards, and you hit driver, and then you're hitting wedges and everything. And you get done, and you're like, man, my wedge game sucks. So you're like, I need to putt better. And you still gotta play like even if you shoot like 59 from the up tees, like you still got to do everything. Like you're short, like even if you can play from really short, like your wedges have to be really good. If there's a bunch of drivable holes, like your short game's got to be pretty good. Like you still have to hit all the shots. It's still somewhat impressive. You know what I mean? It's still pretty impressive. Like even if you just played the red tees for a month, I don't know if I could shoot 59 at Palmetto. Probably, but I don't know. I don't have enough time to ever try it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be fun. All right, so Matt, 2 truths, 1 lie. Hit me.
I've been thinking about this as you've been going.
Forgotten.
I've been thinking about it a little bit.
Okay.
One, let's see. I do need to think about it for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see.
Go ahead. I'm just going to be looking for a futures bet on you winning Shriner.
Let's see. There's definitely I've shot 58 at Palmetto.
Okay.
I played AAU basketball till 9th grade, travel basketball. And I've known Scott Brown and Kevin since Scott had hair. So so when they were 14, probably.
Okay, let me do the math on that, because you're like 29, 28?
28.
Brownie's much older than you. Is Brownie my age? Damn. Has Brownie ever had hair? I'm gonna say I don't know how big you are actually, but you said you're a big guy. Maybe so the AAU b-ball thing I could get. I think that's true. And you had to have known Kiz and Brownie for a while because you grew up in North Augusta and Aiken area. So I'm going to say it's the lie is the 58 from Palmetto.
You have got me.
That's the lie.
I've shot 59 at Palmetto, and I've known Brownie and Kiz since so I had a cousin, Wesley Carter, that played at North Augusta, who was the same age as Brownie and Kiz. So I used to go out and watch them when they were in high school. And so I've known both of them basically since I could pick up a golf club.
So you shot a 59 from Palmetto from what tees? The back tees?
The back tees.
Damn. Damn. I mean, that's like, Palmetto, I would think is probably the green complexes are so nasty at Palmetto. I would think that's a really good spot to improve short game.
It's great. It's why we've got 4 PGA Tour players with a driving range that's 200 yards long. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that is irritating.
it's amazing. It's amazing for the stuff you can do on the golf course and around the golf course, practice wise and stuff like
Yep.
that. And we absolutely love being here. So it's been really cool.
AAU basketball, huh? You're good. You're a good
AAU
basketball.
basketball. I
Did you hang
mean,
that up to like focus on golf more in high school, or?
yeah, I hung it up to focus on golf when I realized I was slow. I was not physical. I could shoot a little bit, but
Yeah,
I was like, I don't really want to put all this effort in.
yeah.
But I was huge. I was huge at, like, I haven't grown an inch. Like, I'm 6'1" and I haven't grown an inch since like 7th grade.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So basketball was like my thing younger because I was just way bigger than everybody,
Yep,
and I didn't have to be physical because everybody was so small.
yep.
But then when everybody got bigger and more physical, and like, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm way better at golf than I am basketball anyway. I'll hang up the AAU cleats or the AAU shoes for a little while.
Interesting. I think you could assemble maybe a decent basketball squad from guys on the PGA Tour with you and Gary Woodland, and I don't know who else, but other guys who played basketball. And
Gary's
Gary
nasty.
was a player.
Gary's nasty at basketball.
Matt, this is a lot of fun. We appreciate you coming on the Tour Junkies podcast, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.